again, Packer fans. Welcome back to the Atrium at GreenBayPackerNation.com. Today is Wednesday, December 9th, and Packer fans happy because Green Bay is sitting pretty in their home stretch run toward the playoffs. Of course, the Packers aren't necessarily in. The NFC East has a lot to say about this very tight wild card race. Now with the Eagles involved, of course the Giants and the Dallas Cowboys still involved, along with a few others. But looks like either the NFC North or the NFC East are going to have, or both, will have two teams in the playoffs this year. But the Packers, of course, with a big win Monday night against the Ravens, 27-14. We'll go over some pros and cons on that game and talk about another big game coming up against the Chicago Bears. So, of course, we want to go over pros and cons. There were a lot of pros in this game, but I do want to start out with a couple of cons. Pluses, minuses. I would say one thing that's sort of a disturbing trend for me that is the fact that the Packers we are not winning second halves of games. We're starting to score less than our opponents in the second halves of games. Don't seem like it. It seems to me that our opponents are better able to make adjustments than we are. Either that, or because our team tends to get leads in the first half, we're then sort of backing off our coverage, not putting as much pressure in the second half. And that's a trend I don't want to see continue, because when you look at the Ravens game, there was a long period of time in there where our offense struggled. And we had, of course, some strange things happen, and our defense in that period of time gave up 14 points. Now, I'm not putting it on the defense, so to speak, but what I am saying is if we want to be a serious contender for the playoffs and deep into the playoffs, we're going to have to start winning the second halves of games, putting more points on the board. When we've got a team down, we need to just go ahead and finish it off early. It'd be nice, and I do believe that if our team does that kind of thing, really comes on strong in the second half, we could possibly see, Aaron, well, we're not going to see Aaron Rodgers standing on the sidelines, and most likely, but we could be very close to that sort of a scenario if it weren't for the fact that we are, struggling hard to make sure that we have a wild card spot. We would, of course, be much more likely to see that happen. I don't think we'll see it happen, but I think we'll be in a position where there may be a few times, late in the fourth quarter where we say, hey, we might as well just put Matt Flynn in. This one's wrapped up. We're only going to do that if we come on strong in the second half. So that's one minus I'd like to talk about. Also, of course, in this game, penalties. We talked about in the fifth quarter podcast, JR and I, this team finally came up against another team that was just as bad in terms of penalties as we are, and we fought it out, and I don't know which team won in terms of who is the most penalized team. It was very close, but all in all, we had the second most penalty yards in NFL history, and it is just sick to see. It has got to stop. And once again, McCarthy was talking about how he hadn't seen the tape, but it looked like it was an aggressive play. I've got news for Tramon Williams, Jarrett Bush, and all those guys that are back there that will, in the end, they will lose us games if we are not careful. There's three words that you might want to look up, you might want to jot down, you might want to keep in the back of your mind. And those words are play the ball. For crying out loud, when the ball is in the air, play the ball. Even Jarrett Bush has the athletic ability to go up and get some of these passes. Tramon Williams, we know, has the athletic ability, and he did it in this game. But on those pass interference calls, he was in position. If he had just played the ball, everything would have been fine. So that's a big minus for us. Our special teams are a minus. The penalties are a minus. Of course, the turnovers and drops by the receivers are also a minus. I think the drops are something that we are not going to see moving forward. I think it was one of those things, kind of a wake-up call maybe for our wide receiver core. They will come back strong. I have no hesitation whatsoever about that. Couple of, the interception that bounced off Donald Driver's legs, you're not looking for that to happen time and time again. It was a fluke thing. Our defense was able to go ahead and win the game out, and our offense to score that final touchdown with Jermichael Finley to seal it in the game. In the plus category, that's one thing I want to talk about. This is a team that, they faced some adversity. After the first half came out, it looked like the Ravens had made some better adjustments. We were struggling. But the team went through the adversity and came through victorious on the other side. And that's what you like to see, a bunch of guys that are struggling together, working through some difficulties, and go ahead and get the big win, a much-needed win. And I mentioned in the fifth quarter, I really think that this Ravens team played hard. Some of the penalties that they had, of course, you know, they're going to be talking about that. Of course, Jim Harbaugh, their coach, was crying on the sideline all night about the penalties that were called on them. But they, as a team, played very tough. You could tell that they wanted it. We just denied them. And you may have noticed as a news item, Ray Rice making bad comments about Green Bay and how they dropped you in the middle of nowhere, and he really didn't think anything of Green Bay. Well, you know what? That's just classless. And I think Ray Rice, you might want to go back and pay attention to what Ray Lewis said about playing at Lambeau, because Ray Lewis is a Hall of Famer, and you are a nobody. You are a flash in the pan who got completely devastated on a Monday night on the big stage at the Big Top, the #1 venue in all of football. You got drilled and you cried about it, just like your coach. So I'm going to give Ray the benefit of the doubt. He did apologize over Twitter to make sure he didn't have to say anything to anybody's face, because when it comes to face-to-face, we killed you. We took you out. So you can go home when your team doesn't make the playoffs, and you can cry there, because there isn't anybody in Green Bay that's going to cry for you. Just absolutely sick. So I don't know where that goes. That's my rant, maybe. Definitely goes in the minus. Absolutely classless act. Shows nothing but his football IQ is below average, and that the man knows nothing about the history of the game. He's a guy that's in there. He has all the skills, all the ability. He has all the God-given talent, and just likes to spout his mouth off when he's PO'd. So that's what he did. The only shading I'll give to that is, yes, this was after a loss. He was frustrated. But Ray Lewis, when he was frustrated, what was it, 2 weeks ago? So frustrated that he didn't want to talk to reporters, he said, "I don't want to talk to you right now," and he walked away. That's class. That's class. And listen to the comments that Ray Lewis made about Lambeau Field and Green Bay, Wisconsin, as far as football goes. That's the promised land, and Lewis, you missed it. So, that's my